Long before the first steel beam was lifted from the Texas soil, before the glass arches reflected the relentless sun of Arlington, and before tens of thousands of fans would walk through its colossal doors, the AT&T Stadium existed only as an idea, bold, audacious, and almost unbelievable. It was not merely the plan for a sports venue. It was a statement of power, a monument to ambition, and a declaration that American football, business, and spectacle could be fused into something the world had never seen before. The birth of AT&T Stadium is a story shaped by money, political maneuvering, personal vision, and the relentless desire to build something bigger than everything that came before it. The story begins with the Dallas Cowboys, one of the most valuable and iconic sports franchises in the world. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, the Cowboys were already a global brand, synonymous with success, controversy, and massive commercial appeal. Yet despite their fame, they were playing in Texas Stadium, a venue opened in 1971 in Irving, Texas. Once revolutionary, Texas Stadium had become outdated. Its famous hole in the roof, once a symbol of innovation, was now a reminder that time had moved on. Luxury boxes were limited, technology was aging, and revenue opportunities were being left on the table. At the center of this realization stood Jerry Jones, the larger-than-life owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Jones had purchased the team in 1989 for approximately $140 million, a move that shocked the NFL world. Over the years, he transformed the Cowboys into a financial powerhouse, redefining how franchises monetized branding, sponsorships, and media exposure. By the early 2000s, Jones understood something crucial. If the Cowboys were to remain not just competitive on the field, but dominant as a business empire, they needed a stadium that matched their ambition. This was not about replacing an old building. It was about creating a symbol. Jerry Jones envisioned a stadium that would be the most technologically advanced sports venue on the planet, a place where football, entertainment, and commerce would merge seamlessly. He wanted a structure that would dwarf its predecessors, host not only NFL games but concerts, boxing matches, college championships, and global spectacles. In Jones's mind, the stadium would not simply serve the Cowboys, it would immortalize them. However, ambition alone does not pour concrete or weld steel. The dream required money on an unprecedented scale. Early estimates suggested the stadium would cost more than $1 billion, a staggering figure at the time. To put that into perspective, most NFL stadiums built in previous decades cost a fraction of that amount. Jones was not interested in modesty. He wanted excess, grandeur, and innovation, even if it meant navigating political resistance and public skepticism. The search for a location became the first major battleground. Several cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex expressed interest in hosting the new stadium. Irving, where Texas Stadium stood, hoped to retain the Cowboys. Dallas itself entered discussions. But it was Arlington, a city strategically positioned between Dallas and Fort Worth, that ultimately seized the opportunity. Arlington's leaders recognized that hosting the Cowboys could transform the city's economic future, placing it on the global map. In 2004, negotiations intensified between the Cowboys organization and the city of Arlington. The proposal was controversial from the beginning. To help finance the stadium, city officials suggested a public funding mechanism, a sales tax increase that would contribute hundreds of millions of dollars to the project. This included a half-cent sales tax, along with additional taxes on hotels and rental cars. The plan sparked fierce debate among residents. Supporters argued that the economic benefits, jobs, tourism, global exposure, would outweigh the costs. Opponents saw it as a risky gamble, a public subsidy for a private enterprise owned by a billionaire. On November 2, 2004, the citizens of Arlington voted in a referendum that would determine the fate of the project. By a narrow margin, the measure passed. That vote became a defining moment in the stadium's history. With public funding secured, the dream moved one step closer to reality. The city committed approximately $325 million, while Jerry Jones and the Cowboys would cover the remaining costs, which continued to climb as the vision expanded. Once financing was in place, the focus shifted to design. Jerry Jones did not want a conventional stadium. He wanted something that would make people stop and stare, something that would look futuristic even decades later. The architectural firm HKS, based in Dallas, was selected to bring this vision to life. From the earliest sketches, it was clear that this would be no ordinary structure. Massive steel arches would stretch across the stadium, supporting a retractable roof that could open and close depending on weather conditions. The design balanced Texas grandeur with modern minimalism, combining raw size with sleek elegance. One of the most revolutionary elements was the massive high-definition video board suspended above the field. At the time, nothing like it had ever been attempted. Stretching approximately 160 feet wide and 72 feet tall, the screen would become one of the largest in the world. Critics initially mocked the idea, questioning whether such a screen was necessary or even practical. Jerry Jones, however, saw it as the future of fan engagement. He believed spectators deserved an experience so immersive that no seat would ever feel distant from the action. Construction officially began in September 2005, on a sprawling site in Arlington that would soon be transformed into a hive of activity. Thousands of workers were involved, operating under tight deadlines and intense pressure. The scale of the project presented constant challenges. The steel arches alone required precision engineering, as they were among the longest single-span arches ever used in a sports facility. Each component had to be fabricated, transported, and assembled with meticulous care. As construction progressed, costs continued to rise. By the time the stadium neared completion, the total price tag exceeded $1.3 billion, making it the most expensive stadium ever built at that time. Critics questioned the wisdom of such extravagance, especially during periods of economic uncertainty. Yet, Jones remained unwavering. To him, cutting corners would mean compromising the very essence of the project. Behind the scenes, the stadium was also the product of countless political negotiations and corporate partnerships. Naming rights became a crucial piece of the financial puzzle. In 2009, telecommunications giant AT&T secured the naming rights in a deal reportedly worth around $17 to $19 million per year. The agreement not only provided significant revenue, but also aligned the stadium with a brand synonymous with technology and connectivity, reinforcing its identity as a cutting-edge venue. Finally, in 2009, the dream materialized. The AT&T Stadium opened its doors to the world, instantly redefining expectations of what a sports venue could be. Its inaugural events showcased not just football, but the sheer versatility of the space. The stadium hosted concerts, college games, and major international events, quickly proving that it was more than an NFL home. It was a global stage. Emotionally, the stadium represented the culmination of Jerry Jones's vision, a tangible legacy built from ambition and risk. For the city of Arlington, it marked a turning point, bringing international attention and economic growth. For fans, it offered an experience unlike any other, where technology, comfort, and spectacle merged into a single overwhelming presence. The birth of AT&T Stadium is not simply the story of concrete and steel. It is the story of how power and money intersect with dreams, how political will and public consent shape monumental projects, and how one man's refusal to think small reshaped the landscape of American sports. From the tense referendum vote in 2004 to the final touches before opening day in 2009, every step was driven by urgency, pressure, and the desire to build something eternal. In the end, AT&T Stadium stands as a modern colossus, a testament to what happens when ambition is given room to grow, when billions are invested not just in a building, but in an idea meant to last for generations. It is the root from which all subsequent stories flow, the foundation of triumphs, controversies, and unforgettable moments that continue to echo beneath its towering arches. As the vision of the AT&T Stadium began to rise from the red Texas earth in Arlington after 2005, the narrative presented to the public was one of progress, innovation, and historic achievement. Cranes dominated the skyline, steel arches slowly curved into place, and headlines celebrated the creation of what would soon be called one of the greatest stadiums ever built. Yet beneath this triumphant surface, another story unfolded, one far quieter, heavier, and rarely discussed. It was a story shaped not by press releases or ceremonial speeches, but by accidents, hurried decisions, and silences that lingered long after the concrete had hardened. Construction on a project of this magnitude demanded speed. Deadlines were tight, expectations were enormous, and the pressure to deliver something unprecedented weighed on every level of the operation. Thousands of workers passed through the site between 2005 and 2009, many of them working long shifts under intense conditions. The scale of the structure alone introduced constant risk. Massive steel components were lifted high above the ground, machinery operated around the clock, and even minor miscalculations could lead to serious consequences. From early on, incidents began to occur. Some were reported briefly in local news, often framed as unfortunate but isolated events. Others barely reached the public at all. Construction sites are, by nature, dangerous places, but the AT&T Stadium project pushed those dangers to their limits. Workers spoke quietly among themselves about near misses, injuries, and moments when things could have gone terribly wrong. In an environment driven by urgency, there was little room to slow down. One of the most striking moments came in May 2009, just months before the stadium's official opening. During the installation of temporary seating for an upcoming event, a tragic accident occurred. A worker fell from a significant height and lost his life. His name did not become widely known, and within days, the machinery resumed its rhythm. Official statements expressed regret and confirmed compliance with safety regulations, but the emotional weight of the incident remained largely confined to the workers who had witnessed it. This was not the only loss associated with the construction. Over time, reports surfaced suggesting that more than one death had occurred during the years of building, though exact numbers were rarely discussed openly. Each incident was treated as separate, never framed as part of a broader pattern. To the outside world, the stadium continued its transformation, untouched by the human cost quietly accumulating behind the scenes. Decisions made under pressure played a crucial role in shaping this atmosphere. Engineers, contractors, and city officials were all operating under the shared understanding that delays were unacceptable. The eyes of the NFL, corporate sponsors, and the global media were fixed on Arlington. Any setback threatened not only budgets, but reputations. In this climate, transparency often gave way to discretion. Problems were solved internally, reports were minimized, and the narrative remained tightly controlled. Workers later described a sense of unease that grew as the structure neared completion. It was not fear in the conventional sense, but a heavy awareness that the building carried memories embedded into its very framework. For those on site, every beam and platform was connected to moments of tension, injury, or loss. These stories rarely traveled beyond the perimeter fence, but they shaped how many workers perceived the stadium long after their shifts ended. The silence surrounding these events was not accidental. Large-scale construction projects often rely on carefully managed communication strategies, especially when public funding and political support are involved. Arlington's leadership, having secured voter approval in 2004 for the sales tax increases that helped finance the stadium, was deeply invested in presenting the project as a success story. Acknowledging repeated tragedies risked reopening debates about safety, responsibility, and whether the rush to build had gone too far. As a result, many questions were never fully explored in the public eye. Were safety protocols always sufficient for the pace demanded? Could certain accidents have been prevented with more time or different decisions? These questions lingered without clear answers. Official records focused on compliance and procedure, while personal accounts faded into memory. When the AT&T Stadium finally opened in 2009, the celebrations were grand. Fireworks lit the sky, dignitaries praised the achievement, and Jerry Jones stood proudly as his vision became reality. To millions watching on television, the stadium appeared flawless, a triumph of engineering and ambition. Yet for some, particularly those who had labored within its walls, the opening marked not just an end, but a quiet reckoning. There is a certain irony in how such monumental structures absorb human experience. The stadium was designed to amplify sound, emotion, and spectacle, yet it also absorbed silence. The accidents, the rushed decisions, the lives altered or lost during construction became part of its unseen foundation. They were not commemorated with plaques or ceremonies, but they existed nonetheless, woven into the history of the place. Over the years, fans and visitors have occasionally spoken of an unusual atmosphere during quieter moments inside the stadium, long after the crowds have gone and the lights have dimmed. Whether these feelings are shaped by imagination or by the weight of history is impossible to say. What is certain is that every great monument carries stories beyond those told in official narratives. The construction of AT&T Stadium demanded more than financial investment and architectural brilliance. It demanded human endurance, sacrifice, and in some cases, an irreversible price. These realities do not diminish the achievement, but they complicate it. They remind us that behind every symbol of power and progress, there are individuals whose contributions were never celebrated, whose stories were never fully explained. In continuing the story that began with ambition and billions, this chapter reveals the other side of greatness, the part that remains buried, not beneath the field, but beneath layers of silence. The stadium rose as a modern wonder, but it did so carrying echoes of moments the world was never meant to linger on. And those echoes, though rarely spoken of, remain an inseparable part of its true history. When AT&T Stadium officially opened its doors in 2009, Arlington, Texas, entered a new era. The celebrations were loud, the lights were blinding, and the world's attention turned toward the colossal structure that now dominated the landscape between Dallas and Fort Worth. From the outside, everything about the stadium symbolized triumph, cutting-edge technology, architectural audacity, and the fulfillment of Jerry Jones's long-held vision. On game days, tens of thousands of fans filled the seats, their cheers echoing beneath the massive steel arches. Yet as time passed and the initial excitement faded, another layer of the stadium's story began to emerge. One far less visible and far more unsettling. If stories rooted in reality fascinate you, if monumental places spark your curiosity, and if you are drawn to mysteries that time, money, and power tried to bury beneath concrete and steel, then this channel was created for you. Every structure has a memory. Every stadium, building, or monument carries echoes of decisions made behind closed doors, of people whose names were never written on plaques, and of moments history chose to overlook. By subscribing now, you become part of a community that looks beyond the surface, beyond the lights and the applause, and dares to ask the questions others avoid. Leave your like to show that these hidden stories matter, and activate the notification bell so you never miss what comes next. Here, we don't just talk about places, we uncover what they tried to hide, because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones no one ever had the courage to tell. It started quietly, almost imperceptibly, with comments exchanged in hallways and control rooms. Employees who worked late-night shifts, cleaning crews, maintenance teams, security guards, were the first to notice that something felt off. AT&T Stadium, despite its constant activity, had moments of profound emptiness. When the crowds were gone and the lights dimmed, the building seemed to change. Workers spoke of unexplained sounds echoing through corridors that should have been silent, as if footsteps followed them at a distance, always present but never visible. By 2010 and 2011, these stories had become more frequent. Security personnel reported hearing voices over their radios that did not correspond to any known transmission. Control room logs occasionally showed brief electrical irregularities, screens flickering, systems rebooting without warning, despite the stadium being equipped with some of the most advanced infrastructure of its time. Engineers often attributed these issues to software glitches or power fluctuations, reasonable explanations in a building of such complexity. Yet the consistency of the incidents raised quiet concerns. Certain areas of the stadium gained reputations among staff. Long service tunnels beneath the seating areas, designed to move equipment and personnel efficiently, were often described as uncomfortable places to linger. Workers claimed that these corridors felt unnaturally cold, even during the intense Texas summers. Some said they felt a sudden pressure in their chest or a sense of urgency to leave without being able to explain why. Over time, these spaces were avoided whenever possible, tasks completed quickly and without unnecessary conversation. Visitors, too, occasionally sensed something unusual. While fans rarely noticed anything during packed events, those who arrived early or stayed late sometimes mentioned an odd heaviness in certain sections. Ushers recalled moments when guests asked to be reseated, unable to articulate their discomfort beyond saying that the area didn't feel right. These requests were handled professionally and without incident, but they added to a growing collection of anecdotes that resisted simple explanation. Electrical anomalies became one of the most discussed aspects behind closed doors. AT&T Stadium was designed to showcase technological perfection, from its colossal video board to its sophisticated lighting systems. Yet there were moments when entire sections briefly lost power for no apparent reason, only to return to normal seconds later. In post-event reports, technicians noted that diagnostics often showed no clear cause. Everything appeared to be functioning within expected parameters, as if the failures had never occurred at all. By the mid-2010s, stories circulated among long-term employees linking these experiences to the stadium's construction years. Some believed that the tragedies and silences from the past had left an imprint on the building itself. While management never endorsed such ideas, the timing and repetition of the incidents fueled speculation. The stadium, they said, remembered what people tried to forget. There were also reports of motion sensors triggering alarms in empty areas, particularly late at night. Security footage reviewed afterward showed nothing out of place. No movement, no shadows, no visible cause. Still, the alarms persisted intermittently, disrupting routines and forcing guards to respond to spaces that appeared completely undisturbed. Over time, these calls were met with resignation rather than alarm, yet the unease never fully disappeared. What made these accounts more compelling was the reluctance of many witnesses to speak publicly. Employees feared being dismissed as unreliable or unprofessional. In a venue that represented prestige, money, and global attention, there was little tolerance for stories that might invite ridicule or controversy. As a result, many experiences remained confined to private conversations, shared only among those who had felt them firsthand. The stadium continued to host historic events: Super Bowl XLV in 2011, major concerts, international soccer matches, each reinforcing its status as a modern marvel. On the surface, nothing seemed amiss. Yet beneath the roar of the crowd and the brilliance of the lights, these quieter stories persisted, passed from one shift to the next like warnings that were never officially acknowledged. Psychologists might argue that such experiences are the result of suggestion, fatigue, or the sheer scale of the environment. A building as vast as AT&T Stadium can easily distort sound, light, and perception. But for those who worked there night after night, these explanations felt incomplete. The sensations were too specific, the patterns too familiar. What ties these post-inauguration events to the past is not proof, but continuity. The stadium was born from ambition and urgency, built under intense pressure, and marked by moments of loss that were never fully processed in public view. Once opened, it became a place where millions celebrated, but also a place that seemed to carry echoes of everything it had absorbed along the way. Today, AT&T Stadium stands as one of the most famous sports venues in the world. Its image is one of success, innovation, and spectacle. Yet for a smaller circle of people, those who have walked its empty corridors, listened to its unexplained sounds, and felt its unsettling silences, it is also a place layered with memories that refuse to fade. These inexplicable events do not define the stadium, but they complicate its story. They suggest that buildings, like people, can hold on to the past in ways that are not easily measured or dismissed. And as the years pass, these silent testimonies continue to exist, alongside the cheers, waiting in the shadows of a structure that was meant to be nothing less than perfect. More than a decade has passed since AT&T Stadium first opened its doors in 2009, rising from the plains of Arlington, Texas, as one of the most ambitious architectural projects in the history of sports. Over the years, it has become inseparable from the image of modern American football. Its massive arches, retractable roof, and gigantic video screen are instantly recognizable around the world. For millions of fans, the stadium is a place of celebration, pride, and unforgettable moments. It is where championships are decided, records are broken, and emotions reach their highest point. Yet beneath this global image of perfection and spectacle, questions remain, quiet, persistent, and unresolved. Today, AT&T Stadium stands as a symbol of success, not only for the Dallas Cowboys, but for Jerry Jones himself. The franchise's value has soared into the billions, and the stadium has proven its versatility time and again. It has hosted Super Bowl XLV in 2011, NCAA championships, major boxing matches, international soccer games, and concerts by some of the biggest names in music. Each event reinforces the idea that this is more than a stadium. It is a modern temple of entertainment and sport, designed to impress at every level. Yet history does not disappear simply because a building is admired. The past remains layered beneath the present, and in the case of AT&T Stadium, that past is complex. From the ambitious and politically charged decisions of the early 2000s, to the intense construction period between 2005 and 2009, to the accidents, silences, and stories that never fully surfaced, the stadium's foundation is built on more than concrete and steel. It is built on human experience, on effort, sacrifice, pressure, and loss. For the average fan attending a Sunday game, these layers are invisible. The roar of the crowd, the precision of the technology, and the sheer scale of the structure leave little room for reflection. The stadium feels alive, vibrant, and triumphant. But for those who work there, especially those who have been part of its daily routine for many years, the building can feel different. It is not uncommon for long-term employees to speak, quietly and cautiously, about the contrast between event days and the stillness that follows. Late at night, when the last lights are turned off and the parking lot's empty, AT&T Stadium becomes something else entirely. Its vast interior amplifies silence as much as it amplifies sound. Corridors stretch endlessly, and shadows settle into corners designed to be overlooked. For some, this emptiness is simply the natural result of scale. For others, it feels heavier, as if the building itself holds memories that refuse to fade. The unresolved questions surrounding the stadium are not documented in official reports or public statements. They exist in the spaces between facts, in personal recollections, shared glances, and stories told only when trust has been established. What truly happened during construction? Were all incidents fully acknowledged? Were all decisions made with care, or did urgency outweigh caution at critical moments? These questions linger precisely because they were never answered in a way that satisfied everyone. The strange occurrences reported after the stadium's opening only deepen this sense of ambiguity. Electrical failures with no clear cause, alarms triggered in empty areas, and unexplained sensations felt by staff and visitors alike continue to be dismissed as coincidence or technical complexity. Rational explanations are always available and often convincing. After all, a structure as advanced and immense as AT&T Stadium operates on systems so intricate that even minor irregularities can appear mysterious. And yet, doubt persists. Not because there is proof of something unnatural, but because the stories are consistent enough to resist complete dismissal. They echo the past, those years of pressure, silence, and sacrifice, and suggest that the stadium may be more than the sum of its visible achievements. In this sense, it becomes a mirror of human ambition itself, capable of greatness, yet unable to fully erase the cost of its creation. This duality defines the stadium today. On one level, it is undeniably a triumph. Economically, culturally, and architecturally, AT&T Stadium has exceeded expectations. It has reshaped Arlington, strengthened the Cowboys' global brand, and set a new standard for sports venues worldwide. On another level, it stands as a reminder that progress often leaves unanswered questions behind. The most unsettling aspect is not the stories themselves, but the silence surrounding them. Silence has been a constant presence since the project's earliest days, from the hurried decisions made behind closed doors, to the accidents that passed quickly through the news cycle, to the experiences that employees hesitate to share openly. Time has a way of covering these things, smoothing over rough edges until only faint traces remain. Concrete cracks can be repaired, steel can be reinforced, technology can be upgraded, but memory is less easily controlled. It settles into places, into people, and sometimes into the structures they create. Whether one believes the mysteries surrounding AT&T Stadium are exaggerations, coincidences, or something more symbolic, they serve a purpose. They invite reflection. What does it mean to build something meant to last forever? What is left behind when ambition moves faster than caution? And how much of the past can truly be buried beneath innovation and success? As AT&T Stadium continues to host the world's biggest events, these questions remain unanswered. Perhaps they always will. The stadium does not offer explanations, only presence. It stands quietly between moments of noise and celebration, holding everything it has witnessed since the first shovel broke ground. In the end, AT&T Stadium can be seen as both a temple of sport and a monument shaped by unresolved mysteries. These identities do not cancel each other out. They coexist. And it is precisely this tension between glory and silence, between spectacle and shadow, that gives the stadium its enduring, unsettling power. Long after the final whistle blows and the lights go dark, the story does not end. It lingers, inviting anyone willing to listen to decide for themselves what truly lies beneath the surface. If stories rooted in reality fascinate you, if places of grandeur make you wonder what they have truly witnessed, and if mysteries hidden beneath concrete, steel, and time keep your curiosity awake, then this is where you belong. Every great structure carries more than what the eye can see, and every iconic stadium, building, or monument has a past, shaped by ambition, sacrifice, silence, and unanswered questions. By subscribing to this channel, you become part of a journey that goes beyond headlines and official narratives, diving into the human side of history that is often forgotten or deliberately left untold. Take a moment now to subscribe, leave your like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss what comes next. Each new video is an invitation to look deeper, to question what seems obvious, and to explore the stories that time tried to erase. Here, we don't just talk about impressive places. We uncover the emotions, decisions, and mysteries that still echo within their walls. Stay with us, because the next story may change the way you see the world around you forever.